Hello, everyone. This is Kerwin, and welcome to another episode of Travel Talk. And today we're going to be talking about nearby airports. Let's go. So, nearby airports, this is probably something that if you're trying to get a cheaper fare, might be something for you to consider. Or if you're an airline employee and you can't get out of a particular airport, then you may consider an alternate airport. So this is really a good topic for everyone. And so one of the things about alternate airports is you make it a different fare. So for example, and I'll go through the big airport, the big cities that have alternate airports in just a bit. But let's take a big one, for example, like New York. New York has 6 airports that you can use, and we're going to go through what those 6 airports are. But let's say you're non-revving, which means you're flying space available, and you want to get to Europe. You're in Newark, and you can't get out of Newark. Let's say you're trying to take Virgin Atlantic out of Newark, from Newark to Heathrow, but you can't get on that flight. And so, or British Airways, you can't get on that flight. Well, they also fly out of JFK. So what you would do, you would get your self to JFK, which it might be a little costly, but it won't be that costly. You would take the Newark Air train to the Newark Airport station. Then from the Newark Airport station, you would take the New Jersey Transit train, which is I think it's like $15.75. You take that to Penn Station, and then once you're in Penn Station, you can take the E train to Jamaica Station, and then when you get to Jamaica Station, you take the JFK Air train, and so that by now it'll cost you like $2.75 on the train to Jamaica Station, and then $8.75 to get on the air train to get to the airport itself. And this will probably take you maybe about 2 hours, 2.5 hours to do that, depending on how quickly the trains arrive. There is a faster way. You can take a Blade helicopter. It'll take you Newark into Manhattan, and then you can go Manhattan to JFK. But I think you'd have to pay 175 to get to Manhattan, and then another 175 to get to JFK. Or maybe they'll give you a deal since you're going all the way and you have to make a stop. But there are different ways if you ever have to switch airports to do that. But that should probably be another topic, right? How to get between the different airports. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to share my screen because it's sometimes easier when you share the screen. I can show you, I can talk and show at the same time. Okay, so if you go to passrider.com/nearby-airports, you will get this page. And on this page, what the application does is, and hopefully it's working properly today. You know how things don't work when demos are. By the way, the airport behind me is JFK Airport. That is the TWA terminal. Well, it used to be the TWA terminal, is now a historic site, so they can't tear it down. So that's why they on my over my left shoulder right there is where the terminal is anyway, and the old terminal is still intact. And if you look over my right shoulder here, you can see the Lockheed Constellation, which was a TW icon way back when. So if you ever go to get to JFK, it's at the JetBlue terminal, Terminal 5. When you go to Terminal 5, if you look across, you can see the old terminal that used to be there. I actually flew out of that terminal from myself and a friend of mine. We used to work for Continental at the time, and we flew TWA 767-300 to Cairo from that terminal. Very nice flight. Okay, so nearby airports. New York is probably the most famous one, so that's why I just want to show New York. So in New York, we have Newark, EWR, HBN is White Plains, LG is LaGuardia, and of course JFK is JFK John F. Kennedy Airport. ZTF is actually Stamford, and there was a time when United had an agreement with Amtrak, and you could board a plane and train in Stamford. It would take you to New York Penn Station, and then you would take Amtrak again into JFK, into Newark, sorry, and then because Amtrak and New Jersey Transit does the route. So basically, you buy the ticket that says Stamford to LA, and your routing would be Stamford, which is ZTF, to Newark Penn Station, and Newark Penn Station to Newark Airport Station. And then you would get on your plane that would take you to Los Angeles. I don't think they have the code share agreement anymore with Amtrak, so you won't be able to do that. But there's also SWF, which is Stewart. Stewart is in upstate well, it's Stewart Newburgh. It's downstate New York, upstate, the top of downstate New York. And then there's Islip MacArthur, which is out on Long Island. Now, what you do is when you come to passwriter.com/nearby-airport, you would type in, it pre-selects United States, and you would type in intercity New York. New York. Then you hit search. And what it will do is pull up all the airports that are close by. So it also gives you the skyports. There are a few skyports in the New York area, the seaplane base. So it gives you that one. You got LaGuardia, you got Newark, you got Teterboro, which is just in Jersey. It tells you the mileage as well. There's JFK, there's White Plains, which is the HPN, ISB. And some of these airports are not commercial airports. So like Trenton Mercer is not a commercial one. Stewart is a commercial one. And this is another one. See, Igor Sikorsky, BDR is not a commercial airport either. Now, if you want to go in here and look at this particular airport and see all the airlines that are flying out of that particular airport, you would click on the airport schedules application. Now, it's a premium part of passwriter.com, which means you have to sign in to see what that looks like. Okay, so I've signed in, and this is the screen that you get. And what you do, you type in HPN, or you can type White Plains if you want. And you click, I'm going to do it by airline, and I'll do it by airport. And what this does, this is going to show you all the airlines that flies into the White Plains Airport. In addition, and you can see there's American, there's Bermuda Air, there's Breeze, there's Cape Air, there's Delta that flies in, there's JetBlue, and it also tells you where they fly. And there's also Tradewind Aviation that flies in there from Martha's Vineyard. So you get a pretty good idea of where these airlines, who flies into this particular airport. Now, the other thing is if you want to see it by airport, you can also do that. This is by the airline itself. So what it will do is say, okay, there's coming into White Plains, there's none from Atlanta, Charleston, Charlotte, Chicago, Detroit, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers, etc. And then you can see which airlines flying on those. And in the other direction, coming into White Plains, you can go from Charlotte, Atlanta, Charleston, etc., etc. You can see what's there. So then what it says is these are the flights that are direct. So remember we talked about directs and nonstop. A direct flight makes at least one stop without changing the flight number. So this flight goes from Dallas to Nashville to White Plains. It's on JetBlue's same flight number. And it also goes the other direction, White Plains to Nashville to Dallas on JetBlue, same flight number. And there's round robins. Round robins are flights that basically start and ends in the same place, and it keeps the same flight number. So there's White Plains to Orlando, back to White Plains. Delta has a flight, and it uses the exact same flight number for all two flight segments. So that's a new term you got introduced to here. Now what you can do is while you're in here, if you want to see what the schedules are like for the flights that goes White Plains to Orlando on Delta, you can come in here. Now it's showing that there's no flight that matches that criteria. Sometimes you will get that, get that type of message. But if you remove Delta, for example, so many airlines in here. See, you should be able to see the airlines that are in here. So we have White Plains to Orlando on JetBlue. Is the only one that goes there. So this tells me that Delta has filed something for this route, but it's just not in the schedules as yet. But that's what you could actually see here. So let me close this. Not okay, and so that's it for showing you the nearby airports. But what I'm now going to do, I'm just gonna let me get out. Let me go back to this one, and we can try some other cities. Okay. So if we do something like Miami, for example. Okay, so Miami, we can see that we have Miami, MIA, we have Fort Lauderdale. The Opa-locka is an executive airport, so it doesn't take commercial traffic. And we have West Palm Beach, and then we have Fort Myers, and it tells you how far. We also have Key West, but Key West is a little far away. It is 129 miles away. Fort Myers is 110 miles away. I'm sorry, we have a wind chime here. And West Palm Beach is 64 miles away. So if you're flying into that airport, you can always take a look and see what the prices are out of the different airports. Now, this gives you an idea of what are not alternate airports. Now there are other cities, right? It's not just domestic. I'm gonna go into let's go to France. So if we go into France and we do Paris. Okay, so we have Orly. This is a train station at Massy. There's CDG, which is Paris. There's Beauvais. This is another train station, Le Mans. And there's another train station, Champs Ardenne, that's 79 miles out. And so you can see that these are other train stations that you could use to get into Paris. So it's not just domestic, but what just to give you a good idea. So let's start with, say, Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, you've got and we can just put Los Angeles in here, but I'll make it easier. Okay, so in Los Angeles, the big ones are Burbank, LAX, Long Beach, John Wayne Airport, Ontario Airport, and San Bernardino, which is 58 miles. Santa Barbara is a little further out. That's 95 miles, and Palm Spring is 101 miles. But this really gives you a good idea of what is out there that you can use. Same thing if you do. Now, Berlin used to be my really go-to example, but Berlin only has one airport now, and it's Berlin-Brandenburg. The other airports are now closed. There was Tempelhof, there was Tegel, and there was one more, which was SXF. Now, what they've done with SXF is they put the terminal is still there, and but it's not being used. Then they used to use it as like a Terminal 5 for Berlin Airport, but it doesn't look like it's being used anymore. But so Berlin is just one airport, and it's a Brandenburg that takes care of that. The other multi-airport, multi-city airport, or multi-airport city is London. London has 6. There is London Heathrow, London Gatwick, London City, London Luton, London Stansted, and London Southend. You probably never use Southend. Southend is literally at the south end of London. So that takes care of that. Chicago has Midway and O'Hare. Those are the 2 major airports up there. And at one point, it used to be Gary, but I don't think there's any service coming out of Gary anymore. So if we do Chicago here, we can see that we'll get Midway and we get ORD. There's also South Bend. The South Bend is 69 miles away. And this goes by distance, and saying, see, Gary isn't even showing up anymore. Gary would have already been somewhere around here. It's even showed Milwaukee, which is 75 miles up the road. And I think there's even bus service that will take you from Milwaukee into Chicago. See, Minneapolis has one. That's just the Minneapolis St. Paul's. It's just one airport that serves two cities. Atlanta is one. In Miami, we spoke about West Palm Beach, and Fort Lauderdale has been alternates to Miami, which is it's a little further up, but it's still alternates. So the idea is that you can use this application if you're going into one city and you want to find out, where the nearest airport is, because there's some places that just doesn't have to be a big city. So we could pick something like, let's say we picked Paris, Texas, for example. We can see what comes up. So it says if you want to go to Paris, Texas, you can go to Texarkana, you can go to Tyler, which is Tyler Pounds, TYR. You can go to Dallas Love Field. You can go to DFW. You can go to East Texas Regional Airport, and you can go to Shreveport, or you can go to Fort Smith, and that's in Arkansas. So Hot Springs, Arkansas. So it gives you an idea of other airports that you can use to get to a particular place, not necessarily a metropolitan area that's served by multi-airports, like Los Angeles. There's San Francisco as well. San Francisco will have the San Francisco International Airport, which is SFO. You'll also have Oakland, and you have San Jose, which is just across the way. And you can get into San Francisco by taking a train from San Jose. So this gives you a pretty good idea of airports that have multiple cities that have multiple airports. And just in case you need to switch airports, you can use this application to figure out what other airports are around. So I hope this helps and gives you a pretty good idea. I was trying to think of another big city that has multiple airports, but we did Los Angeles, we did New York, we did Chicago, Miami. Houston does have two airports as well. Houston has Houston Hobby and Houston Intercontinental. And we did talk about Dallas. Dallas had Dallas Love Field and Dallas Fort Worth. And I think those are pretty much the big ones. Denver just has one at the moment. At one point, it actually had two. There was a Denver Stapleton and a Denver International. But now there's only one. There's also Tokyo. Tokyo Haneda and Tokyo Narita. And so there's just two of those there. Seoul Incheon has Seoul Gimpo and Incheon. So there's two airports out in Seoul. Sydney, Australia only has one. That's the Sydney airport. Melbourne only has one. Brisbane only has one. If you go on the European side, we spoke about Paris. Paris has three, which is the Beauvais, Orly, and Charles de Gaulle. There is also Le Bourget, but Le Bourget is a private airport, so it doesn't take commercial flights. And this talk is really just about commercial airports with commercial air service. I think that's about it for at least the big airports. Oh, there's Rome. Rome has Campino, and there is also the Fiumicino, which is one everybody flies into. Campino is the one that I was gonna say Southwest, but not Southwest. It's the one that Ryanair flies into. Now, Europe actually has quite a bit of these when you think about it, because what Ryanair does is they won't fly into the main airports for the city because it's too congested and it costs too much, but they will fly to one of the outlying airports. So when you do Ryanair, note that, but then realize that when you fly into these, like for example, if you fly out to Beauvais, it's a 20 euro bus ride to get into the city of Paris. And you have to also factor in your time. So it just depends on what you want to do, what your goals are. to see if an alternate airport is worth it. So this is Kerwin with Travel Talk and talking about alternate airports. Have a great trip. We'll talk soon.